We are live now, so.
Okay.
We're ready when you are.
All right. Are we recording now?
Derek, do you have confirmation from Brianna?
I am. I just messaged her. Let me. Elevator to panelist, that way she can.
Okay. She says we are good to go.
Okay, so we're recording then. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will convene the agenda for Thursday, December 17th, and consider the matter that is scheduled for 9 o'clock. And that is case number 2020-0266 or point SP 002 for Tahoma Terra Phase 2 Division 3. The applicant is Tahoma Terra Holdings LLC, and the request is to subdivide approximately 46.6 acres within the Tahoma Terra Master Plan community into 234 single-family units and a multifamily component as part of the Tahoma Terra phase development. The site is located on the south side of Tahoma Boulevard and west of Thompson Creek within the city of Yelm. My name is Steve Casso. My name is Steve Casso. I'm the City of Yelm hearings examiner. I am an attorney in the private practice of law with the firm of McCarthy and Casso that is located at 902 South 10th in Tacoma. So if anyone knows of a reason why I should not hear the matter, please indicate, otherwise we'll go ahead and proceed. The way we'll proceed then this morning is we'll first hear a presentation of the city staff report by Tammy Merriman. Following that, we will hear testimony from the project applicant, and then testimony from anyone that wishes to speak in the matter. Following conclusion of public testimony, I'll offer the applicant the opportunity to respond to any concerns raised, and then the city would have the opportunity to provide any closing comments. Following conclusion of the hearing this morning, I will take the matter under advisement and will issue a written decision. And that decision will be transmitted to the city and to the applicant at the address shown on the front page of the staff report. And anyone else that desires to receive a copy can do so by signing in with your, well, actually, it'd be probably better just to let the city know of your name and address so that we can transmit a decision to you as well. In these quasi-judicial land use hearings, the Washington Supreme Court requires that all testimony be presented under oath. So before you commence your testimony, I'll need to swear you in as a witness, and then at that time you can go ahead and proceed with your testimony. So, Ms. Merriman, if you would like to raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give in the case now in hearing shall be the truth? And you can just simply respond by saying, I do. Okay,
I do.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, go ahead and proceed.
All right, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. As the examiner stated, this is a preliminary subdivision request and approval for Tahoma Terra. It is the final build out of the Tahoma Terra Master Plan community, which is was originally about 220 acres. The property that's remaining to be developed is about 46 acres, and it encompasses 4 tax parcel numbers. The zoning of these properties are medium density, high density, and low density as part of the Tahoma Terra Master Plan development standards. As a matter of housekeeping, I'd like to just make note that the notice of application was mailed to state and local agencies and property owners within 300 feet of the site on October 6th, 2020, as well as published in the Nisqually Valley News on October 8th, 2020. Notice of the date and time of this public hearing was posted on the project site, mailed to property owners within 300 feet of the site, and mailed to all the recipients of the notice of application on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. Notice of the public hearing was also posted in the Nisqually Valley News on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. We did receive comments from the public hearing notice. We received comments from Joseph Rieberger of Cascade Law Group representing JZ Knight. They were requesting that the city make sure we consider its available water rights and related potential impacts as part of the master plan community. And in regards to that, the findings regarding water rights and the MDNS will be discussed a little later in the staff report. And we'll go into a little more detail then that should respond to that comment. We also received comments from adjoining property owner concerning the multifamily apartments and high density residential that are right up on Tahoma Boulevard and directly across from the residential area, which was a surprise to many of the homeowners up there. I would like to share my screen, if that is okay.
Yes.
All right. Can you see the zoning, the colored map?
I don't say this. My screen is black. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I have it. Yes.
Okay, the Tahoma Terra Master Plan Community, which was, like I said, originally 220 acres, included several phases of development. And when the original approval was done in 2005, the conceptual and final master plan included future zoning for the area. This is the area on Longmire and Tahoma Boulevard, east of Thompson Creek. That was their low density 4 to 6 units per acre. Their commercial area is on Tahoma Boulevard, on the west side of Tahoma Boulevard. Thompson Creek and its associated wetlands and hillsides are protected as open space. They have high density residential here with the apartments. They are medium density, medium density here, high density here on this corner, and then the remaining balance of the Tahoma Terra was their low density 4 to 6 units per acre. So this zoning was determined in 2005, and it was appropriate for them, for Tahoma Terra to locate the high density residential in the high density zoned area. We did, the person commenting understood the fact that the zoning was pre-established, and then asked that if it could not be moved or if it was unfeasible to move, if the applicant would consider some additional landscaping to provide a visual barrier between the residential and housing. And that has become a condition of approval, and I'll go into that a little bit later. As part of the environmental review that was done, there was a mitigated determination of non-significance issued in 2005. I won't go over every single measure individually, that we would be here forever, but I will say that the mitigation measures regarding transportation impacts for Tahoma Terra have either been completed, are in construction, or they're scheduled to be completed in 2021. So the mitigating transportation mitigating measures are all being met. The MDNS also required that Tahoma Terra, as part of their development, either transfer water rights enough to serve the full development, or wait until the city has acquired water rights enough to serve the city limits, the urban growth area, and this master plan community. As we found in previous subdivision approvals with Tahoma Terra, they did transfer water rights. All of those water rights have been used to date. There's no additional water rights that have been transferred. At this time, the city of Yelm has submitted its water rights application and mitigation package to Department of Ecology as part of the pilot project process that was approved through the legislature. The city anticipates that this approval will be complete in 2021. And again, as determined in previous approvals for Tahoma Terra, it is clearly stated that while development and construction may occur, the application for final subdivision that actually creates the lots that homes could be built on cannot be applied for until such time as the city has water rights approved by Department of Ecology. So that means at this point, the preliminary approval and any construction on the site would meet the MDNS requirement. The last requirements in the MDNS were open space and density requirements. And as I'll discuss through the design standards, these are also being met. In 2005, in August of 2005, the hearing examiner provided a final master plan approval for Tahoma Terra, which includes all of the areas on site, and it listed conditions subject, or that was subject to the master plan community. And again, I won't read each one individually. However, they have met the MDNS conditions of approval. They're providing the conditions, meeting the conditions of approval of the final master plan community. Sorry, I got stumbled here. One of the items in the final master plan approval was that Tahoma Terra build 48 apartment units for every 300 single family homes. So with the construction of phase 1 and moving into phase 2 over here, that hit the 300th housing unit. So that's where the 48 apartments are constructed here in this area of Tahoma Terra, as you see on the map. They're finishing out the construction of phase 2, division 2, and that is going to at some point hit the next 300th housing unit, which is going to require another 48 units apartment units be constructed. That was intended as, and part of this application, that they do 48 apartment units in the high density zoning. The complete build out at 234 lots does not push over 900 units. So they'll only be required to finish out these 48 apartment units and will meet the multifamily component of the final master plan. When reviewing subdivisions, the city is required to provide a concurrency statement for infrastructure within the city of Yelm. The first item that we look at is concurrency for water. I did briefly go over it. However, concurrency for subdivisions is met at the time of preliminary approval when the planned infrastructure is identified in the 6-year improvement program and water rights acquisition program for water system plan are sufficient to provide. As we know, we have submitted our mitigation plan and water rights application to Department of Ecology under the state legislature's pilot project program. This was done in September of 2020, and the approval is expected in 2021. Tahoma Terra was subject to the MDNS condition that they provide water rights or wait for the city to have that. And then as we determined in the Tahoma Terra phase 2 division 2 phase development approval, all water rights transferred have been used, and that construction plans can move forward. However, final subdivision approval may not be granted until the water rights are approved by Department of Ecology for the city of Yelm. For sewer, concurrency with sewer mitigation or concurrency for sewer is met when the development provides and extends sewer infrastructure to the site and the homes connect to our city sewer system. This satisfies the concurrency requirement for sewer. For transportation, the MDNS, again, that I didn't go into detail, but required several mitigation measures for Tahoma Terra to address all of the impacts from their transportation, and all of those construction improvements are met. And then payment of transportation facility charges will finish out the mitigation measures of the MDNS. And these transportation facility charges are paid at the time of building permit issuance for each home or multifamily unit. Concurrency with fire protection is met when they pay fire impact fee, which is on the books right now. And concurrency with school infrastructure is met when they have mitigation agreement and pay school impact fees with the school. This mitigation agreement has been complete with Yelm Community Schools. When looking at this subdivision and comparing it to the conceptual final master plan approvals that were issued in 2005, we need to assure that the build out of this subdivision meets the requirements of the conceptual and final master plan approval. When we reviewed those, the criteria that we used is to make sure that the subdivision is consistent with the goals and policies of the city of Yelm, that the master plan approval include provisions for single family and multifamily residential uses, open space, parks, and neighborhood commercial uses. The build out of the zoning map that you have in front of you and the build out has followed the goals and policies and followed the conceptual and final master plan. However, with this final one, there was a couple questions about some of the conceptual requirements that I had placed as conversation in the staff report and then also as conditions of approval. And during that time, when I sent out the staff report previous to the hearing, Soundbuilt read the staff report and they had questions regarding a couple of the conditions and have provided follow-up mapping that shows how they intend to meet the conditions of approval and would like to have that on the record to show that what they're proposing will be adequate to meet the conditions of approval. Those unique conditions were that the multifamily, pardon me, wrong one, that the neighborhoods have unique entryways, that the subdivisions will have distinct sub-neighborhoods. And the last one was the additional landscaping for the high density residential. So I would, if it's okay, I would like to bring up another map on the screen and show how the Tahoma Terra is looking to meet the conditions of approval that I've put here in doing the distinct sub neighborhoods. I can't get both sheets on the screen at the same time. However, this is the furthest west. This is the low density residential. They have an entrance here across from a new entrance that will be built for phase 2 of Division 2. They also have another entrance across from the main entrance that's existing in phase 2 Division 1, where they're going to take a corner and make a monument tract and show that this is more of the low density area within the subdivision.
Yeah, I think what we ought to do here is mark the zoning map that you were referring to previously that you had on the screen as Exhibit G or Attachment G to the staff report, and then we'll mark the exhibit that you just put on the board there where you were explaining the entry and that type of thing. We'll mark that Attachment H. Because I want to make sure if this were to go to the city council or go to the courts or whatever, they know what we're talking about. So then this is a new one here that you put up, and we will mark that Attachment I. And maybe you can just explain what Attachment I is.
Yes, actually, this would be GH. Okay, so I is a 2-page document, and it shows, like I said, I wish I could bring both pages up at the same time. But this shows the high density and medium density area. They're proposing a unique entry here that goes into the high density area, as well as on this side, which creates the distinct sub neighborhoods. There also, one of the items was the concern of the conceptual master plan requiring a variety of housing types. And with the low density, medium density, and high density, they met the high density and the low density, but there was really not the varied housing type that was described in their conceptual approval. So they are proposing to put townhomes here, 2 5-townhome sections, which does meet the requirement for the varied housing. It provides smaller housing, usually more affordable, and the layout here provided an area where they could do that. The other thing that, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. The other thing that happens with this is because these are townhomes, and townhomes are individual dwelling units. This actually created 3 more parcels. So the full build out of Tahoma Terra, instead of being 234 lots, would be 237 lots. The traffic impacts of this, the additional transportation impacts were not enough to create any further mitigation measures. The roads are being built. It meets the density requirements and of the conceptual master plan. So the additional units do not provide any additional impact that would need to be mitigated outside of the conditions of approval that are proposed. One of the items that also was a concern for the city in meeting the conceptual approval was the location of pocket parks. The conceptual and final master plan approval requires 1 pocket park for every 50 dwelling units. And their pocket parks where they proposed were located here, which is on the south side of phases 1 and 2. And then their original layout showed 3 pocket parks on the south side of phases 3 and 4. The intent of the pocket parks is to provide smaller recreation areas within the sub-neighborhoods to allow the residents to be able to walk easily and have access to the pocket parks without having to go long distances to the main park. They submitted a park exhibit. And I would imagine then this would be attachment J.
Yes.
They're showing that the existing Tahoma Terra has a large community park on Tahoma Boulevard, and there's some park areas up there. They're proposing this green space area between the multifamily units and the medium density units as a park space, as well as providing pocket parks here and here for this section of the subdivision. In phase 3, there's a pocket park here, but in phase 3 and 4, all of the pocket parks are located on the south side of the housing and not really centrally located. I will say that with discussions with Soundbuilt, we would like to work with them to try to move these pocket parks into more of a central area. That would meet the intent. The overall number of parks and size of parks is fine. It meets the goal and it meets the requirement, but the intent of these pocket parks are to be more centrally located. And it's been indicated to me that Soundbuilt is willing to look at moving this one to a more centrally located area. Those were the main concerns we found in looking at the design standards for the subdivision. The last couple items are mailboxes are to be cluster box units and located throughout the neighborhoods. We will look at the locations and have those approved during civil plan approval. And then at the end, when we come down to final subdivision and recording, Thurston County requires that subdivision name and addressing be reserved with the county prior to recording. That became a condition of approval. Moving into the actual staff recommendation of conditions to approve the subdivision, we have that the subdivision is subject to the MDNS. We also have the condition on there that the final subdivision cannot be applied for until water rights are achieved by the city of Yelm. We have a condition there that they provide revised preliminary site drawings showing enhanced landscaping, sub-neighborhoods, unique entry features, the intent for a variety of housing types and pocket parks to be centrally located. I believe that the plans that they've submitted that we've just added onto the record would meet those intent. And then the rest of the conditions of approval, not needing to go through them individually, they'll connect to water, they'll connect to sewer. The stormwater will meet stormwater requirements for the city of Yelm. They'll provide engineering plans to show all of their infrastructure. They'll provide an addressing map, engineering plans, and then at the end, they'll provide a performance assurance for any landscaping to make sure that landscaping remains and it is in good shape. So I'm sorry I jumped all over the place, but based on the findings and the research that's done and the conditions of approval proposed in our recommendation, we would recommend that the hearing examiner approve the final, the preliminary subdivisions for Tahoma Terra phases 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Just a couple of questions. What is the type of multifamily building that is proposed there on phase 1? I'm assuming that is the one the neighbors are concerned about. What is the type? Is it going to be a 3-story building, a 2-story building, or what? How is it going to be organized? Are there going to be balconies overlooking the road, or are they going to be internal? Do we have any information on that as yet?
We don't have the elevations on for the apartments yet. They need to do a minimum of 48 apartment units. So if each of these had 8 units, whether it's 2 or 3-story, we do not know yet. They will have to apply through another permitting process, the site plan review process, to be able to develop this area out into the apartments. And during that time, we would look in more detail of their parking requirements, their landscape requirements. This is where we could enforce the enhanced landscaping between the residential areas and the multifamily. But that detail and what those buildings exactly are would be reviewed through the site plan review process.
Okay, and is that a public process, or is that internal administratively with the city?
It's an administrative review. However, it does require public notice. The public notice would be mailed to property owners, posted in the paper, and posted on the site when that application comes in.
Okay, so
it does not require a public hearing unless a decision is appealed.
So the neighbors across the street then that are expressing concerns, they would receive notice of the proposed site plan review.
Correct.
Okay. The other question, I had, I know that obviously Department of Ecology and Pollution Control Board and all the way up to the Supreme Court approved the city's previous application for water rights. So it's probably a good chance that this next one is going to be approved also. But in the unlikely event that it doesn't happen, and the applicant goes forward, and starts their site development, what happens then if the water is not made available? So is the applicant going to just put in the roads, and I guess the piping and utilities, that type of thing? Are they also going to clear all of the lots? So you're going to have a great big, open space, or just everything cleared off, and then all of a sudden there's no water, and so this whole site remains clear. How is that going to work?
Well, it's my understanding with the preliminary subdivision, that is just approving on paper how the development is going to go forward, and they've shown how they meet the standards and guidelines for the city and for Tahoma Terra. If the applicant chooses to move forward with construction, it would be at their own risk. If they move forward with construction prior to us having the water rights approved, it would be at their own risk. They could clear and grade, they could actually put the infrastructure in, and as you stated, clear the entire thing and just have it flat and open. If for some reason we do not have our water rights at that time, we would have roads and bare land there. We would have to make sure that the roads were blocked, access, maybe revegetate the area, and then then the applicant could try to look for water rights on their own to transfer to the city to continue the development, but we would be at a standstill.
Yeah, I was just wondering, about dust and and that all the potential problems with with a large cleared area. And so I was just wondering if you've given some thought to maybe allowing the infrastructure, the roads, utilities, those types of things, but then, if it's possible to leave the lot clearing until water was available for sure.
Right, and I do believe the Stormwater Management Manual has best management practices for leaving cleared areas and disturbed areas for any specific length of time, that does have to be revegetated in some way or covered in some way so that you don't have that impact from just a big open area. I do believe that's addressed in the Stormwater Management Manual.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Does the city have anything further it wants to present at this time?
I have nothing further at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Merriman. Then we will hear testimony then from the applicant.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mann. You want to raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give and the case now in hearing shall be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner and staff. As you
Maybe
guys-
I jumped the gun here. I need you to identify yourself for the record and then go ahead.
Yep, this is Evan Mann with Tahoma Terra Holdings, the applicant representing the project today.
Go right ahead.
So jumping in, the staff report looks good. We appreciate staff's efforts. And I think Tammy kind of got through a good majority of it, but the condition that we had concerns with or wanted clarification on and worked with Tammy and the city on was condition number 3. So, and that should capture the majority of our conversation that has happened so far, or kind of the questions and issues. But condition number 3 reads, the applicant shall provide revised preliminary site plan showing enhanced landscaping around the high density zoning, distinct sub neighborhoods, unique entry features, intent for various housing types and sizes, pocket park centrally located with each sub neighborhood. So each of these items are, that make sense, but they leave the plat open to, kind of wide swings of what could be required if just read on their face. And so we wanted to we reached out to Tammy and worked with her to get some clarity as to what these conditions would actually look like on the plat. And that is the exhibit that Tammy showed previously. Tammy, are you able to switch that the screen to the exhibit? I think it was I.
Did you want the?
Yeah, is that the one with clouds? Perfect. Okay.
Or the one with the grading?
This one's fine. This one works. It's fine. So
was that I? I think that was I, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Okay, go ahead. We'll just, okay, go ahead.
So I guess let's walk through this plan. Tammy, can you scroll to page 2? I think it's C2.1 of the exhibit. Perfect. So looking at these conditions as part of condition 3, so sub-condition A, enhanced landscaping around the high density is the first issue we would like to talk about. So as Tammy pointed out in the zoning map for this area, this area was planned for and zoned for high density development, which and built into the master plan community was the requirement that with every 300 lots, we provide 48 multifamily units. So this 48 multifamily units meets the intent of the master plan community and the code. And so really to provide any additional constraints on this seems a little disingenuous. One, there's going to be site obscuring landscaping just as part of code, which includes street trees, perimeter landscaping. There are a variety of landscaping elements that are going to be required regardless of the multifamily. And so, and additionally, the neighbors across the street, across Tahoma Boulevard, sit up above this multifamily. So certainly it's not like these multifamily buildings are looming over their homes. These sit down lower. The good majority, 3 of those buildings, if you look directly across Tahoma Boulevard, 3 of those buildings are adjacent to open space, which is the critical area critical area buffer. So really, it only is that westernmost building that is across from single family homes that are part of Division 3. And that, again, that will sit lower. It's going to have, it's going to have landscaping that is required by code, which will provide site obscuring. To require any sort of site screening to limit the visual impact, it just does not make sense, given that this was intended for this area of the property was intended for multifamily use. And again, we will work with Tammy to provide landscaping through the site plan review process, but the necessity to screen this from the adjacent or the people across or the homes across Tahoma Boulevard does not seem, there's really no nexus or risk there for those folks.
Explain to me there again on the site plan. You're talking about the building to the west.
Tammy, are you
that one right there?
That
and that was directly adjacent to the Tahoma Boulevard.
Yep.
And then now the other two buildings, they seem to be adjacent to the road as well. But is it open space on the other side of the road? Is that what you're talking about?
Let me see. Am I able to share, Tammy? I can kind of let me go ahead and share my screen, Mr. Hearing Examiner, and I should be able to, let me get you there in just a second. So let's see here, share. Okay, are we seeing my screen?
Yes, now I can see it.
Perfect. So I'm going to zoom in down to this area so you can see it a little bit more clearly. So here's Tahoma Boulevard, runs east-west in this area. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 apartment buildings proposed adjacent to Tahoma Boulevard. So this area on the north side of Tahoma Boulevard is a critical area buffer. So that's open space. That's never going to have any development. So 3 of our buildings are directly across from an open space with no development. And those buildings certainly will have no impact visually on the homes across the street that are already developed in Division 3. And again, I can pull up a grading plan, but this sits lower. These all sit up a little higher. And so there's not an element of where these buildings are out of scale or looming over homes across Tahoma Boulevard. There's plenty of separation. There's and again, as part of code, we're going to have street trees planted along Tahoma Boulevard that are going to be site obscuring. So then that leaves us with building A of our apartment plan here that shows we will be across from those homes. But again, we're planning our entry monument, which will have landscaping and a visual barrier or effect to it. And again, landscaping as required by code, not as required above and beyond what is required by code. And is just so you know, so that's by code, there will be street trees and landscaping, and that should mitigate this concern that really, again, looking at this was planned for it. There just is no need to provide additional screening than what would be covered by code and is already allowed or provided for in the master plan community.
Mr. Mann, what type of building have you determined what type of buildings you're going to have there?
Perfect. Let's stay on the multifamily discussion. So the multifamily, we have 48 units. They're 3-story. There are 12 apartments in each building. So 48 total, 4 buildings, 3 stories each. And there'll be 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. So a mix of housing there. And again, these are not, we don't currently have a visual that I can share and say this is exactly the facade. But certainly we're not interested in creating something that won't rent. And I think that's important to note that we're not going to bare bones these. This is intended to be a product that we will be, max rental. And all of the units will be rented out, and it's going to be high quality apartment units that will enhance the area and provide for a mix of housing. as was intended by the master plan community.
Have you designed the buildings yet to determine, balcony locations and that type of thing?
No, we haven't. And again, I think the important part is even if we did have balconies facing Tahoma Boulevard, they're certainly not looking over someone's house or someone's yard, being that Division 3 sits above this lower, the lower area in phase 1 of this plat. So orientation, all of those things will be reviewed as part of site plan review, but certainly, I guess the intent here in the preliminary plat is to show that we're providing multifamily as required by the master plan community.
Thank you. Did you have anything further?
So that was, let me kind of run back here. So enhanced landscaping around the high density. And I guess if there's concern about the proposed development and the visual, we've provided this kind of linear park tract along the south side of the apartments that will provide some relief or visual barrier between proposed homes on the south. Plus there's a storm track. There's a variety of things that are limiting the visual to the north. So again, we request that any landscaping, and Tammy's been very clear that she's willing to work with us on what kind of landscaping, but we request that any landscaping, enhanced landscaping would just be the standard code required landscaping, and that be where we leave it. So item number 3B, distinct sub neighborhoods. I think we captured that pretty carefully here. So if you'll see the screen here, this here is, we showed earlier a phase map, but phase 1 is the apartment building. Phase 2 is the remaining portion of this eastern half. But together, this is one distinct neighborhood, and we've got a monument that's proposed at the northeast corner of apartment building A along Tahoma Boulevard. And that monument will essentially kind of establish the sub neighborhood that is phase 1 and 2. So that was a distinct, we wanted to make sure we were clear on that. And then as for phase 3 and 4, which are the western portion of the plat, they're at the very north, I guess you'd say northeast corner, directly across from what is shown as lot 164. We're proposing a monument tract that would again kind of indicate that phases 3 and 4, which are the lower density homes, will have its own distinct sub neighborhood. Then item 3C, a unique entry feature. We haven't established or designed that entry feature yet, but we certainly are familiar with how to create monument tracts that beautify and improve the look of an entry to a plat. So we're certainly open to preparing that, and that will be included with our landscape plans and our final engineering plans that the city will have a chance to review and confirm meet their intent for a unique entry feature. And as I showed previously, one unique entry feature for phase 3 and 4, one unique entry feature for phase 1 and 2. Item number 3D, and this is an important item. I really think we can talk about this. So item number 3D, it says intent for various housing types and sizes. So in our original application and what you have, Mr. Hearing Examiner, these are not shown.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Homes 1 through 10 were not part of our original application. So when we got the comment or the staff conditions, item number 3D, we put together this exhibit that shows those 10 townhomes. Now, when we took out those lots and put in 10 townhomes, the increase was 3 lots. So really the plat as shown to you on exhibit I is 237 lots, because these are fee simple townhomes. So these will in effect be their own individual lots. And that was to meet the intent of various housing types and sizes. And in our discussions with Tammy, I think it was important that the additional 3 lots doesn't trip us into the next 300, which would require more multifamily, but it does, and it is within the thresholds of what was intended density-wise for the master plan community. So while the original application was for 234, the revised exhibit you're looking at here includes 3 additional lots, but they're in the townhomes to create that mix of density. So again, at the end of the day, the plat approval would be for 237. That would be 40, well, that would be 10 townhome lots and 227 single family detached mix of 40-foot wide and 50-foot wide homes. Lastly, the pocket parks, item number 3E, pocket parks centrally located within each sub-neighborhood. So as Tammy noted, we sent over an exhibit that showed the locations of the different parks. You know, we really feel that as seen here, this is the phase 3 and 4, which was where there was, I think, was concern about the pocket park being centrally located. A good majority of these northern homes are very close to the regional park that sits right here, direct or right north of lots 157 through 164 along Tahoma Boulevard. So we provided the park exhibit to show that while the pocket parks in this development are kind of southern orientation, they're along the southern road. When you look at the regional or kind of a bigger view that covers several of these phase and divisions, really there's a wide mix of parks and recreational space opportunities, and we felt that the parks fit better along the south. With that being said, follow-up conversation with Tammy, and can testify to this, is that we think we may be able to adjust these 2 parks on the southern end of lots 207 and lot 191 to the north side of this block. So the park would sit on the north side of lots 198 and 199. So we would shift these lots to the south as much as possible and potentially try to get those there. Now, how we get to that with the city would be something we can work out during final engineering and landscaping. So that's really is kind of the gist of that condition. With regard to water, I want to be clear that the water timing is important to keep in mind as to how this plat is developed. This plat will not go under construction for potentially several years, a couple of years. And so the water district or water rights that are working their way through DOE at this time will be well established and completed before we ever put a shovel in the dirt for this project. And so there shouldn't be a concern that we're going to, clear this. It is already cleared, but we're not going to mass grade this site and get into the utilities until likely well after the water rights have been established for the city. So there really isn't a connection there. While phase 5 and 6 are moving forward, there's a timing issue and a risk there for us, but we would not move forward on construction prior to the water being sorted out with DOE. Let's see. I think those were kind of our main comments. I'm open to any questions if you have any.
I think you answered the questions that I had on this, Mr. Mann. So thank you very much. Does the applicant have anything further it wants to present?
I think we're good. Kurt, did you have anything at this time, or?
Well, I'm good. You guys have done great.
Okay. Then we'll hear testimony from anyone present that wishes to speak.
that I don't have to sit and hear a lecture because I understand what y'all are saying.
Okay. All right, well, just come by at 2 o'clock,
I want you to
okay?
guide me in the right direction.
We have a member of the public that has requested to speak. It sounds like he might, or they might be having some background conversation that needs to end before he
Okay,
testifies. At this point, that's of the attendees in the audience.
Hello?
There he is the only one that's commented.
okay. Sir, you,
Yes,
okay, are you Mr. Vester Martin?
yes, I'm speaking.
Okay, Mr. Martin, could you raise your right hand for me, please?
Yes. I don't know if you can see me or not, but yes.
I can't, but that's all right. I'll take your word for it.
What's up?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give in the case now in hearing shall be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. And could you give us your address, please?
My address is 10065 Jensen, spelled Jensen Drive, Southeast. Yelm, 98597.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Martin.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I live directly across the street from where they're planning on building these new homes and stuff. My neighbor is actually the one that informed me. She got something in the mail, and I don't think I received it, but she told me about it. And my question is about the apartments. When I look at the layout, and I've been looking at all the exhibits that they've been showing, now where they have the apartments across the street from us, my question is, how come they didn't put the apartments on the backside where the other apartments are behind the golf course? That's one of my questions.
Okay, why don't you ask all of your questions and I'll have either Ms. Merriman or the applicant respond to them.
Okay, and so I heard the young lady talking about pocket parks and relocating them. And my other question, if they can relocate pocket parks, can they relocate the apartments? And what does he mean by no risk for the buildings across the street? That's something I heard him say, but I don't understand what he meant by there's no risk. And also, what is the actual height of the apartments that are going to be across the street? He's talking about 3 stories. Usually 3 stories means 30 to 50 feet. And if you look at my home across the street, that would be direct visibility from my bedroom window. Because the height of my home from the street is about 10 feet. It does sit on a hill, but it's about only 10 feet high. So if they're building 3 stories high, that means it's going to be somewhere between 30 and 40, 50 feet. That would be direct visibility into my bedroom window. The fences are not that high. The fences are only about 5 feet. So we're talking about 15 feet. Enhanced landscaping in front of the apartments. Are the trees going to be 50 feet tall? Are the trees going to be 30 feet tall? You know, and also, are the apartments going to be low income apartments? And how much would these homes be rented out for? These apartments, you know, would they be based on low income or would they be based on a certain type of income level? Because certain income people, you know, have certain morals and certain things that they do. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of our biggest concerns, especially my neighbor. She's concerned about, you know, low income people moving in, you know, people being loud out on their balconies, you know, making noise every night. So, but I'm really happy that someone is building something over there because the coyotes at night are terrible. It is horrible. So I'm glad that's going to be moved out the way. But those are some of my questions, and I'm hoping that they can get answered.
Okay, but Thank you, Mr. Martin. And I'm going to, in a few minutes here, I'm going to ask Ms. Merriman or Mr. Mann or both to respond to those. Ms. Merriman, is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
I would request that those that are attending the hearing today, if you do have any comments or questions or would like to testify before the examiner this morning, you have a choice on the Zoom meeting on the bottom to raise your hand. There's a button down at the bottom that says raise hand. If you do that, we can open your mic so that you can testify. I'm not seeing anyone further.
Okay, then you and Mr. Mann want to respond to Mr. Martin's questions.
Would you like me to go first?
Sure, that's fine since you're up.
Okay. I did try to write them all. So I'll answer the best that I can. And I do believe that Mr. Mann will be able to follow up and clarify a few other items that I might not have the information for. The first thing is, why were the apartments set right on the highway and not back like the other apartments? In 2005, when we did the conceptual master plan approval, actually the apartments, we had requested the apartments be right on the main boulevard due to access, availability to walk to buses on the main thoroughfares. That was actually it's one of the comprehensive plan amendments that we look at, is to get the high density residential areas near downtown or near the more major thoroughfares to be able to have the accesses for buses and other transportation. The apartments that were built in the first phase of Tahoma Terra just happened to fit back, niched back in. So it's kind of both things. The apartments were approved, they met all the basic requirements. However, a high density residential should be up more against the more main thoroughfares. And that's why the medium and high density was placed right up against Tahoma Boulevard. In relocating, Mr. Vester asked, or pardon me, Mr. Martin asked about pocket parks and if we could relocate them. Why can't we relocate the apartments? Again, this zoning was established in 2005. It was laid out in such a way that the developers could plan ahead for this large type of development, keeping the high density against the main thoroughfares for transportation and bus access was the main issue. Relocating a pocket park is really a very small item, and it's just shifting around a little bit of land. It's not creating any additional parcels. It's just really providing a small open space for the residential neighborhood so that they don't have to go out to the main thoroughfares. Adjusting a little bit of land for a park one way north or south is much different than a large amount of acreage for apartments. I will allow Mr. Mann to explain his comment about no risk for buildings across the street. Actual height, as Mr. Mann is answering this, I can pull up the development standards and find out exactly what the maximum height requirement is. I do know that in the city of Yelm, standard 3-story buildings run between 30, 35, and sometimes up to 38 feet. Enhanced landscaping, what my intent was hoping that the applicant could, in their, not on the street trees, that's a standard public right-of-way, but on their perimeter landscaping, if enhancing that, just bringing in a little more vegetation as opposed to some ground cover and a few trees. If they enhanced it in such a way that it just filled that in a little bit more. I was not looking for obscuring landscaping, but just making it a little more than the bare minimum standard. That's the landscaping enhancement. That's what I was considering in that. And the last question, Mr. Martin, was on low income, how much they're going to be. I need to allow Tahoma Terra to answer that question as well.
Thank you, Tammy. I think you covered a good portion of that. So yeah, with regard to height, we're bound by code there. If Tammy, if you're able to pull up that max height, that'd be great. But yes, we're bound by a code, by the zoning code and the master plan community establishment for that height. So I don't have that, but yeah, we would typically be upwards of 30 feet for a multifamily building of 3 stories.
Is that, and when you're talking about the being bound by the height of the code, are you talking about the master plan community code or the city code?
Yeah, master plan community code, the development standards established in the master plan community. And those, I believe that includes a height. Tammy, do you have that?
We'll let her go ahead. You can go ahead and continue with the.
Yeah, that's great. So these are market rate apartments. These are not low. There are no low income planned at this point. These are market rate. The intent was to provide market rate attainable housing throughout the project, right? So that's why we have a mix of apartments, townhomes, and single families that are at a smaller product and a larger product. So it's a mix of housing. The apartments are even mixed with some being 3-unit, some being 3-bedroom, some being 2-bedroom. The idea there is to provide a mix, but they will all be market rate. So whatever the market demands with regard to cost and those who would be living there, that is what they would be established. That's how they would be established. Additionally, I think it's important to note that the apartments will have their own rules and standards, and that those would be enforced as part of that development. And those, there are mechanisms established during the development of an apartment complex that limit those kinds of behaviors that may be difficult for surrounding neighborhoods. So I think they're again, when I mentioned low risk or no risk, I may have mischosen my words, but really the idea is that these are good quality homes. These would be good neighbors. It's close to the large park. It's close to transit. It's it's walkable community, and that was the intent of putting the apartments where they're at. We don't actually own the land over near where the other apartments are, the established 48 apartment lots. So we can't just move our 48 apartments over to their 48 apartments. So we are limited, and we need to keep the apartments where they're established or shown on the preliminary plat. I believe, yeah, I believe that answers kind of the additional questions or additional items that Tammy covered. But
I just had one other question, maybe.
Sure.
Respond to Mr. Martin's question. That is, he indicated that his house was about 10 feet above the level of the road there. How far, and you indicated that you were going to be grading. I know that you don't have an absolute figure yet, but what will the elevation of the apartments be in relation to the road? Are they going to be below the road, level with the road? What is that going to be?
Give me one moment. I have a grading plan I can pull up that shows kind of where we're going to sit. But I think the other thing that we got to look at is separation horizontally. I mean, we got the full boulevard in between these apartments and their homes. So there's a pretty significant horizontal separation as well as a vertical separation. Give me just a moment here. I'm gonna see if I can find so our grading plan shows that the apartment building would sit roughly at grade with the road, which Toma Boulevard currently sits direct. And it's the one building, if you recall, the 3 buildings are further to the east and adjacent to or across from the open space. But the one building A sits at roughly the same grade as the street in front of it, which is about 340 7 feet elevation. And then the homes across the street sit up about 10 to 15 feet higher. So while these apartments will sit up, again, the separation between them horizontally, as well as the fact that the homes are elevated across the street, there's just not a lot of impact visually that needs to be screened. I think that's where we're going with that.
Do you have any idea what, maybe I can ask Ms. Merriman or you, but the street tree requirements, what are your limits there as far as the type of a street tree and the height of the tree? Is there any limit to that, or is that kind of is there a city standard for those types of trees?
Yeah, that would be a question for probably Tammy.
Sorry, I was just making sure I wasn't muted. We do have a city street tree list. However, Tahoma Terra does have their own street tree list that they work from. The trees within it's to establish kind of a consistency with the types of trees that are located there. The trees that they've chosen were compatible with our street tree list. So they are deciduous trees. They need to be 2-inch caliper when they're planted. They should be growing to 20 to 35 feet in height and probably 20 feet in width when they're reach their full growth. However, we know that doesn't happen right away, but it does happen fairly quickly. The street trees are located 35 feet on center to allow for the continued growth, so that they and their roots are not competing with each other when they're at full growth.
Is there irrigation required for those for the trees?
Yep.
Tahoma Terra has used our reclaimed water for irrigation in these areas, and then it is their responsibility to keep them alive. And that's why the performance assurance bond or performance assurance device is required as part of the condition of approval.
Okay.
I'd like to add, if that's okay, on the same subject.
Go ahead.
Just that the homes on the opposite side of Home Boulevard are 2 and 3rd story homes. So second story is going to sit up another 10 feet. So if anything, I mean, the second story of these homes sits, 30 plus feet above where these apartments are. So I don't think, again, and then additionally, when the trees are grown in, the canopy will sit at the same level as the windows for the apartments at 35, some 30, 35 feet. So again, we're not building towers that are overlooking everything. These are minimally higher than what would be provided if these were single family 2-story homes.
Do you have anything further that you'd like to add, Mr. Mann?
Well, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Merriman, do you have anything further?
I just have 2 things. I did open the design standards for Tahoma Terra, and the maximum building height in the high density zone is 45 feet. Again, like I said, most of the apartments within the city of Yelm run between that 30, 35, and there was one that was actually 38, but they could have the opportunity to go up to 45 feet as a maximum. The last thing I would say is, again, going back to the landscaping between the multifamily and the adjoining houses. I think I stated in the response to Mr. Martin's question, but to Tahoma Terra, the intent was not to be obscuring landscaping, but just to enhance the perimeter landscaping in such a way that it might help bring that little bit of barrier, might prevent, some of the visibility. And that could be by thicker bushes or trees or something, additional trees within the perimeter landscape that would provide that enhancement between the two.
I just throw this out, but do you see a necessity to, I'm just looking at the impact on the homes across the street, but there's one building that is directly across the street from the homes. The others seem to are down and they face the open space area. So are you concerned about all of the apartment buildings, or maybe the one that just is across from the single family homes?
It was my intent for the entire high density multifamily or apartment buildings to have the enhanced landscaping.
Okay, all right. Okay. Well, I will go ahead then and close the record on this matter and take the matter.
Mr.
There-
Examiner,
What's
we
that?
have Mr. Martin has raised his hand to be asked to speak again.
Okay, Mr. Martin, go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I guess this would be the question to the gentleman. As far as said it would be high quality, high end apartments. Will these be eligible for people that's like on Section 8? Will they be eligible to apply for these apartments? Because I know that some Section 8 do supply middle to high, end apartments to Section 8.
Can you answer that, Mr. Mann?
You know, I'm not familiar what the rental mechanism will be when these are completed. You know, I don't think that we are able to discriminate as to who can live in the homes. I believe if they're qualified and have the backing, whether that's I don't know. I really don't know how that works. If it's Section 8 or how, you know, who provides the payment for it. If they're qualified to live in the home, we aren't able to discriminate.
Also, can you hear me?
Yes.
Also, I had it wrote down for them. Hold on just a second. So there is no intent to possibly relocate those apartments. It's set in stone. It's going to stay where they are. There's no way you can move those apartments to the back where those, I think it was Exhibit I, where those apartments, let me see.
See a little bit.
It's like,
We do.
like a lot look like 34, 30, that row. So those apartments couldn't be pushed to the back and these homes be pushed up. So that's not possible.
Again, per the original master plan community, the apartments were intended to be along Toma Boulevard for that availability to transit and to the services of the city. So it really we were constrained by the master plan community. I think Derek, you're on you're not on mute. Anyway, yeah, we were constrained by the zoning of the master plan community, and that was why it was situated as it is. Yeah.
Another question is, will a property tax, will the value of our property go down, being that the apartments will be so adjacent right across the street from us? That's one of the big issues with my neighbor. That was one of her key questions, is about far as what property value would do. Because when you bring in apartments, it tends to bring property value down. And being that the apartments are going to only be 30 to 40 feet across from us. So will that bring our property value up, or will it bring it down?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that that's the case. I don't think it's going to impact your property value. You know, Toma Boulevard is 60 plus feet wide. Your home sits another 20 feet back from the rear property line, so you're almost 80 to 100 feet away. Our apartments are sitting another 20 feet south of Toma Boulevard, so it's easily 100-foot separation between them. Additionally, again, these aren't low-income housing, and overall, when we develop a master plan community like this, the intent of the master plan community is to increase the property value of all of it through a comprehensive design and comprehensive feel and look to the neighborhood. And so it's not something that I can speak to whether it's going to raise or lower your property value directly, but generally we've seen that property values increase with the improvements and the inclusion of homes.
Okay, will these homes, with this new development, will it be gated?
No, it's not our intention to gate this community.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Mann. Okay, I will go ahead and take the matter under advisement at this point. And Mr. Martin, make sure that you and anyone else that's listening here, let staff know if you'd like to receive a copy of the decision and be made a party of record for any other proceedings that this project may have. So thank you very much for attending this morning, and we are now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.